time. And if you're just joining us, we've been listening to new case documents that have been released in the Utah case for mom vlogger Ruby Franke and her business partner Jodi Hildebrandt. Now, the investigation found that Franke's 6 children suffered from horrific abuse. They were regularly denied food, water, and beds to sleep in. Both women believed that the abuse they inflicted was necessary to teach the children how to repent for their sins. Let's listen to some more police interview footage of Kevin Franke now. Just as a reminder, we are bleeping out or not broadcasting the names of the children. So if you do hear a moment of silence in the clip, that is the reason why. Let's go to the clip now.
Well,
and then a lot of that kind of hinges on who asked you, because if we had been the one, like, I'm not going to say you fit, but I'm confident a cop didn't call you because we wouldn't have wanted you down here at this point in our investigation. So having said that, I think it's time we be honest with you, right?
Sure. No, and I didn't lie. Someone contacted me, but I don't want to say without
from your office, but okay.
Well, I don't recall saying someone from my office.
Our office.
No.
Someone, yeah. So we don't know who called you. So if we knew who called you, then we could help you.
It would make more sense.
But.
Well, I don't know the legal ramifications of implicating individuals who contacted me. And so without a lawyer here, I don't want to answer that question.
That's okay. But you want to know specifics of the case, which we can't share right now because it's under investigation. So
I see.
Yeah. So we would like to ask questions about where you found out, but we'll respect that if you don't want to share that information. But I am curious, when you guys had the previous 8 Passengers YouTube channel, you guys got a lot of heat for neglect and child abuse. A lot of people commented those things on there. Why were they commenting those things?
That's a good question. We had a son who was acting out in very selfish behavior.
Just Chad, or
yes, this was Chad, and none of this is strange or odd. You could get on YouTube and find out all sorts of stuff on this.
It's like a double-edged sword.
Yes, the question is, what do you believe, right? There was even an article written in Newsweek magazine in 2020 on it, was it Newsweek? No, Business Insider, where we were interviewed, and we were pretty straightforward, and we talked about it, and we shared our piece in that. Basically, it boils down to he was being very cruel and mean to his siblings that he shared a room with, and so we removed him from the room. And we said, you can sleep anywhere you want. Sleep on the couch, sleep on the pull-out bed, sleep on the floor for all we care, but you're not sleeping in that room with your brother. He chose to sleep on a beanbag. So 9 months later, he had made a lot of changes in his life. And he was ready to, and we had moved by that time. And so we had a new house, and he was ready to move into his own bedroom. Made a video about it. And in the video, he mentioned something to the effect of, I've been sleeping for 9 months on a beanbag. And that is what all the uproar was about.
What did you guys do to help, like, with his behavioral issues? Is that something you and Ruby talked about together? Mm-hmm. And then did you helping discover yourself and fix behavioral issues and things like that? Is that something you and Ruby sought out to help correct, like, some of the things?
Yes, and
and
I supported it, and so together we held boundaries for our son Chad to support his choosing honest and responsible choices. And when he chose honest and responsible choices consistently is when he began to get his privileges back. And that was
Great parenting, right?
well, that was the uproar, right?
Yeah.
And so, but yes, through 2000. Contact with him because I'm honoring the no contact separation boundary with that I agreed to with my wife. But I understand that he's 18, living on his own somewhere in Provo and working and supporting himself.
What other kids went down to visit Jodi?
What other kids?
Yeah, did you send any of the other kids down to spend time with Jodi?
We didn't send Chad down to spend time with Jodi. They would meet on Zoom.
That makes sense.
Okay.
Yeah, we were in spring
stuff.
Well, even in 2019, she would meet with Chad.
So when did Ruby and Jodi, to your knowledge, like decide to collaborate, come together and mesh lives? Because that's what's happened.
Well, they decided to start a business in 2021.
So while you and Ruby were together.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, but there were, at that period it was pretty nebulous. I don't know.
What's that word mean?
It was just a lot of talk and everyone like solid plans. It was, let's start by doing podcasts together, and then that's all I know. I know that they published a book together recently. You can find it on Amazon. It's not a secret.
Was business thriving? Like life was good between those two?
Well, not that I was aware.
Well, at some point, and again, I'm not digging into your life, but I'm trying to understand this. At some point, they kick you out.
When you talk about a business, thriving in terms of business and money, when we stopped 8 passengers on YouTube, we lost 90% of our income. So to say that business was thriving, in my perspective, no.
Got it.
I don't think it ever was after that.
Was that part of your guys' reason for separation after you guys ended 8 passengers?
Was that part of the reason? The reasons are because of ways that I treated my wife and some of my own addictions that I was working through and seeking help on with pornography.
Thank you for sharing that.
And I've made some wonderful progress.
Like, is that something you came to the realization that you needed help, you weren't doing things right, or is that something that like Jodi helped you guys recognize that maybe Ruby needed more? I'm trying to understand her involvement in your guys' life. She's my focus, so just to be honest.
I understand, and I can perceive that. Jodi and Ruby have a close relationship, and Jodi saw the need for me to get help, and frankly, I agree. The space has been exactly what I need to face, my own addictions and receive the support and help that I've needed. And so this space has been very, very good for me.
Okay, we're going to take a quick break here at Law and Crime, but stay tuned. When we come back, More of the evidence that has been released in the Ruby Franke, Jodi Hildebrandt case. Stay tuned. Joining us, we have been listening to new case documents that have been released in the Utah case for the mom vlogger, Ruby Franke, and her business partner, Jodi Hildebrandt. They pleaded guilty to 4 counts of aggravated child abuse. And remember, Franke's 12-year-old son, R, climbed out of Hildebrandt's window and ran to a neighbor's home asking for help. R had appeared to have duct tape on his ankles and wrists, malnourishment, and severe wounds. Let's listen to some more of the evidence that was released now.
So when you stated that you and Ruby had this no contact that you guys just verbally agreed upon, was that an idea given by Jodi that she recommended you guys have that space and not contact one another?
I'm not aware of that. The invitation for me to leave and take space was from my wife.
Okay.
But that was while Jodi and Ruby were friends and collaborating and doing podcasts. And
Sure.
well, you're the custodial parent of each other. I don't see why we can't explain to you why we're involved. So I don't recall the exact time, but sometime before 11 o'clock today, we received a phone call from 911 on our dispatch that a 12 to 13-year-old boy was knocking on doors in a neighborhood asking for food and water, that he was severely emaciated, that he had...
What does emaciated mean?
Skinny, scrawny, malnutritioned, not enough food, not enough water to sustain life. So he had...
I'm sorry, what?
He had duct tape on his extremities, on his hands, on his ankles, and those were covering rope burns that were used to tie him down. Take a second and think about what I just said. That's the condition of your son. Given that information, your son was taken to the hospital. A warrant has been applied and granted by the Department of Child and Family Services to remove both Russell and Eve from your wife's care. So no one right now is going to have access to these 2 children based on their physical condition. Do you understand that?
I understand.
Would you condone that behavior?
Would I condone that behavior?
That's my job. My job is to find out your knowledge of the treatment of these
Based on your
precious
description,
children.
no. But again, I don't know the details, or I don't know what's going on. But as you described that sounds
Horrible. Disgusting. No human being should be treated like that.
yeah, okay.
That's my thoughts. But again, we might be different on that. We're gonna let you sit here for a second, okay? We're gonna go out and talk. I'm not saying you're still not free to go. Are you under arrest? Absolutely not. We just have lots of questions that we need to figure out. Lots. Okay?
Okay, because...
Your children are under medical care right now.
And what does that mean?
And it means that you don't have access to them. My understanding is that they are, what is that?
They're in the custody of DCFS.
And they will be for the next 7
There's a medical hold on them right now. So for at least the next 72 hours, based on our understanding.
At least the next 70.
They're in observation, they're being watched.
DCFS is gonna provide you that information and they can better answer your questions along those lines. That's handled through them. Okay, so we'll be back.
So I want you to think about some things though.
I don't know.
Listen to me, listen to me. I want you to think about that for a minute. So I have no idea where they're at.
Well, I don't either. But,
Okay, we're gonna hop out here, we'll be back in a minute, okay? That's still recording audio and video, okay? So if you would, don't make any phone calls.
Okay, let's bring in my guest, Catherine Lizardo, to talk about some of the information that we received from these videos. This is the police interviewing Ruby Franke's husband. And you can see he's in shock. He's asking where his children are. And let's think about the children. The evidence that has been released really paints a bleak picture for these children. It's quite shocking. You see duct tape on the wrists and the legs. You see that the children were emaciated, certainly malnourished. The defendants, Ruby Franke, Jodi Hildebrandt, took a plea. They pled guilty. They've been sentenced. Catherine, would you agree that if they didn't plead guilty and there was a trial in this, that would be rather traumatic for the children who already went through so much?
Definitely. And I'm glad that they pled guilty because those kids are spared all those horrific testimony of having to relive what they went through. Because what the clip that we just heard, that's just a small portion of the horrific nature of the torture they received from both women, with how they were duct taped and what's under that duct tape. I cannot even fathom to stay on air. Also, we have to keep in mind when the 12-year-old actually left Jodi Hildebrandt's house and went to a neighbor. He asked the neighbor to take him to the nearest police, not because he was thinking of getting help, but because he said that after he went through that torture, he didn't say torture, but went through that, he needed to repent his sin and he had to go to jail. So he asked to be taken to the police to be put to jail. That's how much their minds have been altered or brainwashed by both women. And now we see that the father reaction. I'm sure everyone was watching closely as to how he was reacting when they told him the condition of his kids. Now the question then becomes who actually contacted him to pick up the kids. And as we saw, he did not want to reveal that because he would not be able to take home the kids because of the 72-hour medical hold on them for observation, understandably so.
Yeah, no, Catherine, it's absolutely shocking what these children went through, especially when you have that sort of whitewashed image on social media for Jodi Hildebrandt and Ruby Franke. And there you have a really morbid, backstory to this and a really horrific set of events and facts with these children who are really in a house of horrors you see here. And we're going to take a quick break here at Law and Crime. When we come back, more of the evidence that was released in the Ruby Franke, Jodi Hildebrandt case, so stay tuned.